In her words, I am dull. I drink all of my beer. The look on my beer's face told me I should be crying, but I wasn't. There was no reason for me to cry. As a matter of fact, I felt terrible. My loss was meaningless, though. A guy shouldn't feel bad about himself when a lady leaves him. When you can just find someone else to cry over? I hear ladies lamenting the lack of decent men on a daily basis. All the good ones are gay or already taken. I hear that so frequently. My male acquaintances, however, bemoan the lack of reliable women. Divorce has been quite difficult for many guys. Something is amiss with it. I suppose most people are blissfully unaware of how fortunate they are. As a couple, it's great to get to know each other's preferences over the years. Yes, I did not gripe about her desires for other people or things. I was upset that she thought I was uninteresting. I think she intentionally made me uninteresting so she could dump me. It is deceptive. She still hasn't dumped me completely. I just found out that she's moving on from me to date someone else, citing my lack of interest as the reason. I used to love going on adventures when I was a kid. I went kayaking with some pals around the islands, in the ocean, and through mountain streams that were raging with whitewater. I opted to go for a leisurely 12-mile paddle to Long Island rather than take day trips to the island. I only heard that it was too dangerously far away to travel securely. Curiously, I had no problems doing it multiple times. A favorite of mine is to spend the night on a state park beach, and then paddle back the next day. This, in Karen's opinion, was unacceptable conduct for a parent and spouse. There was no need for me to jeopardize my family's safety. Also gone were my days of backcountry skiing, motorcycling, and my trusty little Triumph Spitfire. Mountain riding, scuba diving, and climbing for fun. I began skiing because I am a nice father. Not too steep and well-groomed slopes. Keep in mind that I stashed my Triumph dirt bike away. I downsized my mountain bike collection to a road cycle and became a member of a gym with a climbing wall. I operated a minivan. Sure enough, a minivan clad in imitation wood. Sure, I get it. But I loved her, so you're out of my life. Prior to the pressures of my employment, she rhined in my leisure time. She was not amused by my excursions. Negotiations typically required a day or two of travel. I had to go to Hong Kong, London, or somewhere else every once in a while. My expertise in deal-making allowed me to guide my company to fruitful acquisitions or sales. International visits, which typically lasted a few weeks, were something she loathed. For our budget, they were perfect because they always came with a generous bonus. I was elevated to partner, but she hated that I wasn't there. The number of overnight trips has dropped significantly. It would be possible for me to return home on the red-eye after flying to most domestic destinations and completing the business. Nevertheless, I gradually reduced the number of foreign travels I took for a long time. It was quite tricky. Go on many trips, amass substantial wealth. Advance to the position of senior partner, put negotiating teams through their paces and watch as they bring in deals. Forget about going. Just let someone else go on the adventures and bring back the loot. You can follow their career ascent up the corporate ladder. No. For some reason, no one was going to be able to outrun me. I made a cunning move. One trip may lead to many comments on my pursuit of a partnership since I was able to combine reasons to travel. In my company, I pioneered the use of teleconferencing for preliminary work. So that my teams could maximize their time on the ground, I made sure to charter tiny jets for them. It was a major drain on my bonus funds, but the payoff was substantial. I made my way up the ladder. Everyone was okay and Karen was delighted, but I was so bored. I sacrificed everything to accommodate her priorities, but now she thinks I'm dull, so screw her. Whatever thrill she was seeking, I told her to go get it. Meanwhile, I intend to revert back to the version of myself that I thoroughly relish. Oh, for the days when I reveled in the process of creating. On a motocross weekend, I disregarded the laws of physics by soaring off a muddy slope. This is the same me who, after spending all day skiing down a backcountry slope, hopped on a helicopter to locate fresh snow. By summer's end, I had made it back up that very slope. She thought I would just wait for her at home. Were you aware of the safety aspect? If she encountered any problems while on her date, I was to be available to assist her. Is this all serious? After 4 years of dating, friendship, and schooling, they tied the knot 25 years ago. Her intelligence impressed me. I was wrong, she wasn't. This nonsense was not my idea. Neither while she was on call, nor when she returned home could she count on me to be there for her. I am bored. It was game over. The promises were null and void, with the exception of abandonment. Everyone else left. Please obey, love, honor, and treasure. She turned down the final offer. That was before, but now I get it. Obedience would make dull things irrelevant. She stepped out of the shower just as I was getting ready for bed, so I changed into my sports shirt and jeans and went to retrieve my old boots. Whether they were Western, riding, hiking, or dress boots, she adored them all. None of that mattered. They disappeared as soon as I turned in to save me. Personally, I'd say boring me. In the end, I am a different person now. On the other hand, I was confident in my boot style. Never before have they fit so well. That was it. Over the past quarter of a century, I had put on some pounds. With my newly manly shoulders, a touch of aftershave, and my fantastic sport coat, I knew I could rock those boots with confidence and leave her waiting. It was all about that upper body muscle. Her mood was downcast. How are you spending your evening? Nothing wears such kind of clothing. Who said a classroom setting couldn't be dull? I hurriedly left before she could answer, and the minivan's potent 4-cylinder engine got me off to my weekend destination in no time, leaped into existence, maybe a herd for the rest of eternity. All right. I can't fool you, the minivan sputtered and knocked itself into gear. To its credit, it sputtered up the driveway and turned toward town before Carrying could put something on. And I smirked as I saw her emerge from the front door in her robe. It wasn't long before my cell phone rang and went to voicemail. I had prepared a new message, specifically for the occasion. Hello, this is Dale. I am unable to answer the phone tonight because I am either driving or bored. If you need some excitement, call my wife Karen at 5555-4269. She'll gladly talk about me. Otherwise, leave a message and I will get back to you as soon as possible. But don't be surprised if that doesn't happen soon. Perhaps Monday. Ciao. First stop. Get rid of this piece of crap. Van. I was tired of driving something with forward siding. I needed something rugged but elegant. I'd settle for real wood siding. Even like a vintage Willis wagon. It would look great with a surfboard on top, right? I couldn't find a suitable combination for an old Willis Woody. I enjoy riding that. Now that I'm free of the old, boring, spirit-killing ball and chain, it felt good to say so. Nothing that felt both elegant and rigged used to imply giving up. Boring me would have stashed the checkbook in the money market account where we used to save and gone home. No way was I going home. I purchased one of each. I bought 2 cars. One rugged and one elegant. The Mercedes dealer was happy to set me up with a nice convertible. Trace. Elegant mass. Amos. Nothing is more elegant than a guy driving a Mercedes convertible and knowing what to say. Very elegant. My French-speaking friends. I realize I miss the accents, but I don't mind. I'm no longer boring, and looking them up would have meant waiting for it. You know what's coming. Boring. The dealer also had a great big-ass Jeep in his used car inventory, complete with mean-ass fat-ass knobby tires, bright-ass fog lights, and an awesome, loud-ass train horn among a dozen other aftermarket upgrades. I drove away in the Jeep, with the convertible delivered to my house and locked up in the driveway Sunday morning. Boring, she said. I was never one for boredom. She made me a terrible drag. Was history repressed back onto him the whole time? I went out looking for my first shot of adrenaline. I purchased a trailer and drove home. Not to the house I shared with my spouse. Returned to Mom's house. I hadn't seen Mom in a few months. It was time. The 3-hour drive was enjoyable because it allowed me to reacquaint myself with driving something powered by testosterone. Mom was ecstatic and had my favorite lasagna ready. She didn't ask why I was there or why Karen hadn't come to, but she could tell something was wrong. She could always read me. The next morning I went out to the shed and pulled out my old Spitfire. I had kept it there all these years. My brother had driven it occasionally for me to keep it roadworthy. I wasn't as lucky with the dirt bike, but I didn't have to start loading it onto the trailer. By lunchtime I had the bike in the car on my trailer rig and Mom was smiling. So will you tell me about it? I smiled too. I don't understand. My mother? After 25 years of being a Karen, you still do things your way. Minivans and bunny slopes laid my kid to rest, while you brought up 3 other children. Out of nowhere, you show up in that mean truck, longing for your sports vehicle and motorbike, and sporting those stylish boots all without your wife. I mentioned before that Mom could decipher me with ease. The recent struggle Karen had with insanity was detailed by me. You should thank that girl, even though she's crazy, my darling. She freed you. My mother was right. Mom was spot on every time. I reactivated my phone that night. All day long, Karen and the kids had been chatting on the phone. I responded, I am fine, and added the students to a text group. At Grandma's house I am now. I felt the need to reflect because your mom and I have a difference of opinion. I decided to pay Allie a visit. My mother is running around like a crazy person. She claims she has no clue as to why you disappeared. Am I? I won't sugarcoat it and I won't tell you why either. Trying to clarify it for you is beyond my scope. What I can say is that I'm taking action because your mother found me uninteresting. She is able to explain her actions to you. Are you Jenny? My darling? That's different from Mommy. She is quite cautious. No one in our family, including you, would ever be threatened by her. You need to go back to your house and fix things. Am I? Please know how much I appreciate your trust in me before you beheaded me over this insignificant matter. Your mother will tell you the truth. Why don't you ask her? No one is being held responsible. Daniel and Dad. All we want you to know is that you are loved and that we hope for the best for you. Am I? Yours faithfully, son. Let me know when you've spoken with your mother. I had spent the night with my mother, laughing at a cheesy old movie, and was about to go to bed when my text alert went off. I'm sorry, Dad. I cannot believe Mommy went out with another man. Me? I understand, sweetie. Jenny, what are you planning to do? Me. I'm going to live my life as usual. I'm not going to worry about your mother's living rules because if they really mattered, she would have followed the marriage rules that we both agreed on. Not happening. Kids, she set me free. I can live the way I want to. Daniel. Hello, Dad, I get it. Kiss Grandma for me. When I return home next weekend, I want to ride in the Spitfire, I laughed. Yeah. You all understand me like your Granny Ollie. You had. Better take my word for it. On top of that, we're planning a ski vacation for spring break, but this time we're bringing a helicopter instead of a T-bar. How should I proceed? My kids were aware of my interests and the things I used to like doing. Images of me biking, motocrossing, and skiing were visible to them. I think so. To Banff, I'm thinking. Make fitness a priority. Although country trails are fun, they may be rather taxing on your body. She found it dull. My mom and I visited our go-to-bagel restaurant on a Sunday morning. I stayed and did some light housekeeping for her. I was texting during lunch and found Karen's angry message hilarious. My Mercedes was delivered by them. I had extra keys, so they had locked them inside. Gazing at it in the garage was her only option as it obstructed her vehicle. The delivery crew deserves an extra gratuity because of that. I returned home. It was Karen's vehicle. As Karen attempted to hail me down, I parked the Jeep in my driveway, backed it down, and got into my shiny new Mercedes, all the while laughing. Now that she had something to think about, she could see my new Jeep pulling my Spitfire and Kawasaki, her two arch-nemesis. It was at least clear enough for her to exit the garage from her side. After stocking up on clothing for several days at the mall, I checked into the Hyatt close to my workplace. That penthouse suite was mine. All the bonuses I've accumulated weren't given to me without merit. I slept like a baby. As usual, I reported to work the following day and let my coworkers know that I would be traveling on the upcoming trip to Hong Kong, where we would be purchasing 160 acres of prime industrial land. The time felt right to show some boss man muscle as negotiations had ground to a standstill. There was elation on my squad. While they were there, they had gathered 3 more possible acquisitions to investigate. What are you waiting for? When they showed me the areas where they had done preliminary research, I had to ask. Be on the lookout, we will investigate. There is our counsel. They better be ready to crank out some serious paperwork for at least a month, folks, because we're coming in hot. Think about forming a tag team with some of Ian's comrades if that's not possible. Feel free to arrange for your loved ones to fly over and see you once while you're away. Because of this pressure, I do not desire any divorces. Actually, I'll cover all of their travel costs, including hotel, flights, and more, if that's more to your liking. The cost of sightseeing is even on me. This month, boss, I wish you joy, hunger, and productivity. Maybe even more. I plan on visiting Sydney to gather additional information about the Buenos Aires hotel group before we go back. While we're in Hong Kong, I'll have Ian go to Mumbai and Seoul. Listen up, everyone here is your chance to cash in big time. It's nice to see you back, Boss Carter Douglas, my heir apparent, the hot shit negotiator, grinned at me. I smiled back and grabbed my favorite numbers, fanatic at the elbow. Kim, please let me speak with you. I ushered her into my office and told my secretary to hold my calls, especially from my wife. She nodded and I closed the door behind Kim and myself. Here's your big chance, Kim. We will be working quickly and with no margin for error. The majority of what we buy will be resold shortly after we return home, and each purchase or sale must go smoothly. And in time, some of our acquisitions will be worthless. But we will be appealing to sellers who have items we want. So we'll unload some to get more. We will also be making stops to expand the markets for some of our product lines. Those will not be short-term deals, but will yield long-term profits that will open the eyes of the other partners. The people who will promote you from junior associate to something much more lucrative. This is your big moment. So I want you to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to back up any previous arguments or claims I make. Does that mean I smiled, Karen, and you're dating other guys? Does this mean I can sleep my way into a partnership? No. One woman betraying me at a time is simply too many. You will have to work your way up like everyone else. You know you want me. This was true. She was a living wet dream, lean and alive, with legs that curved exactly where they should, beneath the lush palm, and those plunging necklines served as a constant reminder of how creamy and soft her delicious mangoes appeared. Indeed. But you work for me, so. No, not going to happen. On this trip, however, you would be right by my side and available for any business-related needs. You will pick me up in a limo on Friday morning, dress as sexy as possible, even if I'm not. I want my wife to be worried that I will be sleeping with you when you arrive. Come to my door and get me. When you order the limo, specify Jane as the driver and inform her that she must wear the uniform with the short shorts. When I leave, I want my wife to be extremely jealous. My team was motivated. My wife was frantic to see me. My children were furious at my wife. Kim was horny. Not for me, but to gain a promotion. Maybe for me too, but I had already drawn that line in the sand. I went to the airport to book a flight. I thought about jumping out of one. Do not be silly. I wasn't going to kill myself if I wanted to be the thrill seeker I once was. I had to get up and get some adrenaline. It was awesome. I rented cameras for myself and my jump partner to capture the stunt. I posted it on Facebook and had a great night's sleep. The following day, my phone was full of missed calls and texts from the kids. Karen became enraged. The children screamed and refused to be served. The real me was back. Boring, she said. I did not want to see Karen, so I slept at home while she was at work and packed my belongings. I went to the airport and boarded a late flight to Chicago. There was no pressing reason to go, but I had some prospects on the back burner that could be useful. It proved to be a profitable couple of days, keeping me out of Karen's reach until the big trip. I arrived late Thursday night and the house was dark. She finally arrived home at 2 a.m. I didn't even realize I was there. Luckily, she was alone. I would have had to confront her about bringing her toy boys into my home, but this way I could avoid seeing her until I was ready. I was also charged for it. I got up early, packed my refreshed luggage, and by the door I'd made myself a manly breakfast of steak and eggs while listening to ZZ Top on the stereo in the kitchen. I was dressed in a perfectly fitting pair of gabardine casual slacks and a new stylish sports shirt that Karen had never seen. Dressy comfort seemed ideal for the 18-hour journey to Asia, and I made them look good. Karen made her way down the stairs, drawn to the aroma of my coffee. I make excellent coffee. She sucked. Dale, you are home. Honey, why didn't you answer my calls? I've been worried sick. Yes, the kids informed me that you were worried. There's no need. I am fine. I'm simply doing as I please. Oh, you don't, mister. I've got a better explanation than that. It's the perfect explanation. Last week you told me you were going to do whatever you wanted and I couldn't stop you. So I figured if wifey dear is going to do whatever she wants, I might as well do the same. If this is the new us, I can live with it. I never said you could do whatever you want. I said I was going out with other men. Okay, I understand. But I did not want that. So it follows. If you can make such a big decision against my wishes, there is no reason for me to consult you on mine. There is certainly a reason. You have a family to care for. A husband and father have no reason to ride around on a motorcycle or race small sports cars. I thought we had settled that years ago. We did. But we've also gotten older and our circumstances have changed. Karen, I gave up all of those things for you and the children. I drove a minivan, for crying out loud. I ski bunny slopes with my family. I hadn't jumped out of an airplane in years before this week. You called me boring. Shit. This is because I was bored. The kids have left. They have a large college fund to help them finish school. And here's a huge surprise. You and they are unaware of this. They each have a trust fund that will mature once they graduate from college. They have enough money to attend graduate school and make a down payment on a nice home wherever they live. Face it, the kids will be fine regardless of what happens to me or you. So, if the chute doesn't open and I die doing something amazing, I'll die smiling. And they'll be fine with me. You're aware that I am also invested in your future. You have a wife. Karen, I hate to break it to you, but no. I do not think I do. What? Now, just hold on, Dale. That's a significant leap. We've only just started looking into this, and you already think of me. I'm not thinking anything. I know I don't mean much to you anymore. If I did, you would not have given me that ultimatum. Do you think I'm boring? Okay, it's easy to give up. I've got some fun to have. I gave up a lot to be a family man. However, the family man isn't exciting enough to prevent his wife from sleeping on someone else's pillow. The doorbell rang just in time to save me from another shot in this ridiculous argument. Jen stepped in, with Kim right behind her. The two brought in 4 of the most impressive legs you've ever seen. Did I mention I looked great in gabardine? I looked even better with a tent inside my gabardine. Jen greeted me with a hug and kiss before beginning to move my 4 suitcases to the limo. Kim handed me a dossier and began rattling off numbers, indicating where we stood in our negotiations. She rattled off the project names and locations that had Karen's full attention. Hong Kong. Sydney Wayne is in Aries. How long will you be gone? I expect a few months. There's plenty of time for you to explore before you get too old. Do me a favor, however. Do not let them into the house. Karen issued a series of appeals that would have made a public television telethon proud. She provided several justifications. I had to remain so we could talk about the state of our relationship and its future. I stopped her right there. Mistaken tense. Things aren't going well between us. It vanished, and I am too at the moment. We'll see you soon. While I failed to heed a word of her digressions as we made our way to the vehicle, I couldn't help but crack a smile at seeing her gaze upon my Jeep, Spitfire, and convertible parked outside the garage doors. There are 3 garage doors hiding behind her, including the one that holds her automobile. Obviously, her intention was for me to fall for her, even in this place. Hong Kong was really amazing. Kim was right there in the suite with me, so she was on call around the clock, every day, but only for business-related matters, as we had discussed beforehand. Counting was her strong suit. In addition to finalizing all of the anticipated deals, we also set up follow-up teams to come back in a month and finalize the remaining ones. We have had great success in Australia and have re-established an arrangement to buy the whole hotel chain. It would be necessary for a closure team to come back in 30 days. After that, we went back to Argentina to look for other acquisitions. My team and I closed a deal with a seller who was really eager to sell, and we were also able to bring on board more projects for our company. I have kept my word and not cheated on my wife in the hopes that hope will come home to a bereft Karen who is eager to make amends. Absolute nonsense. Karen may have lost her mind, but I have nothing but love for the wild woman. I mistook her ultimatum for a proclamation of an open marriage, as I was not yet prepared to reject her. So long as we can screw anybody we want, we'll stay married. Sure thing. One of my undergraduate best friends, Carrie Moore, now works as a professional buyer in Hong Kong for affluent tourists. She shopped at the world-renowned markets all day while showing my colleagues about town. During our brief 12-day visit, she pointed me in the direction of a highly skilled tailor. After spending the night screwing each other up, I set out for Sydney with a slew of freshly tailored outfits. It met all of my requirements. An unbridled desire, a trustworthy woman, and a plush hotel room in a faraway place. For the 10 minutes it took me to recall, I felt terrible shame. The handbook I was presently following was penned by Karen. She found it dull. It dawned on me that I had never been dull, but I had become bored. Carrie was anything but dull, and her trembling and shaking during our climax proved it. We hired a tour guide named Sydney when we departed from Hong Kong for Sydney. Seeing the metropolis at day and the willowy brown-haired beauty at night was pure bliss for me. When I say that I love being in Sydney, I am not being repetitive. The business climate in Rio was just as target-rich. We were able to rationalize spending an additional month overseas, even though our performance was lower than in Asia and Australia. I learned how to tango in both the upright and horizontal positions in bed from a sexy Latin divorcee I met while abroad. I sent members of my team back on separate commercial planes as we concluded our arrangements. Top tier. I was welcomed to the Mile High Club and shown the proper way to play threesomes by the flight attendants as I boarded a chartered plane a few days later. My journey was fantastic, but it wasn't over yet. Without interest. All right, before you head home, you get the concept. In Canada, I went skiing with my tanned physique. Prior to Christmas, I met my children in Banff. I don't see why not. A week prior to their mother's planned return for the holidays, they completed their final exams. That is all. Helicopter access was required for the fantastic skiing, which featured steep drops on powdery slopes. My nights were filled with early-hour parties with my kids and a curvaceous blonde housewife who I would drive crazy. Who I met on our first night at the pub, and who confided in me her tale of woe, about how her husband had swapped her for a younger model, and how she had no idea what to do next. We were hired. In exchange for her services as my personal assistant, I offered to cover her relocation costs and provided her with a substantial living allowance. Obviously, we didn't start sleeping together for the third night. Each and every night. I recognized her translation skills would be useful for our expanding foreign interests when she unleashed her climax in Russian, the 6th language she had yelled in 3 nights. Hiring her obviously meant that we could no longer sleep together. The destruction of our marital ethics by my unfaithful wife did not threaten my business ethics. Anyhow, we were almost at the end of our week in Banff. A few days prior to Christmas, we returned home by plane. The children visited their mother at her house. I booked a room in a hotel that was close to my office. Dealing with Karen and jet lag simultaneously was not in my plans. I was able to purchase a condo for myself for Christmas, and I celebrated the holiday with my family. Outside the garage, my vehicles remained parked. My Spitfire was parked next to a little Cooper convertible. I thought Karen would be furious, but that wasn't the case. As if nothing had transpired, she greeted me. Perhaps she had grown tired of me by now. I had a wonderful Christmas. I relished her banquet. I did my part to wash the dishes and hauled the required trash cans to the shed. I docked at their base with the Spitfire and Mercedes. Later, I got in my Jeep and drove away. It was a ringing phone. For Christmas, I was hoping we could both relax a bit. Indeed, we did. If it were up to the kids, you could stay for a couple of days. It was me. As a guest, I slept in the room. I brought both cars to the car wash on the day after Christmas and then let them sit outside for 4 months to dry. Even though it was a constant reminder to Karen that things had changed, it might not have been the ideal choice for the automobiles. I planned to leave the Spitfire and the Jeep and the Mercedes in the condo's garage. Karen re-engaged in aggressive behavior. The day after Christmas, her lunch companion dropped by. Mockingly, she grinned. I returned to full-scale conflict after grabbing my stuff and going upstairs. Karen had no idea the kids would be so angry at her. It seems like her perspective was different. It may need to acknowledge that it was Christmas. I intervened to bid them farewell. They succeeded. Instead, they bade Karen farewell. We loaded up the Jeep with their belongings and drove downtown. We were planning to have a good time on New Year's Eve because the city offered so many activities. We spent our days at museums and our nights at clubs. There were opportunities for the three of us to spend time together or separate, because both children had friends in the area. Plus, I was able to carve out some time to myself that I normally wouldn't have. I felt like I had had my fill of great music, museums, and cuisine by the time I returned to work, and guzzled an abundance of world-class whiskey and wine. I got into a pattern that wasn't really a pattern. While my assault on the Southern Hemisphere that fall elevated me to a new level of prominence inside the corporation, it also caught the eye of our rivals. Other corporations were quite interested in pursuing me after seeing our unexpected show of strength. My teammates were informed of this knowledge. I even threatened to take them with me if I ever left. Naturally, the senior partners were informed about what was happening. I was summoned to the office of my employer. The company was founded by Karen's grandparents, and her father built it into a diversified juggernaut that encompassed several manufacturing companies. My educational background was a fantastic match for my first position, which I started as a low-level analyst after I married Karen. Nothing was done to help me out, and I even signed a prenup to make it so I couldn't receive any of Karen's shares in the company, where her dad still had a near-total ownership. Mr. Adams and I got along just fine. We were not very cordial. Even with his son-in-law, he opted to maintain a professional distance. At first, I thought it was strange, but as I climbed the corporate ladder, I saw how it helped him avoid showing bias and eventually started doing the same. So I cut ties with Kim and never even played golf with my friends. All business is local. Consequently, I was not taken aback by Adams's lack of subtlety. All business is local. You seem to have gone through a lot of change in the past few months. You seem to have lost 1 or 2 fights with my daughter, but you've been doing really well at work. Am I to be concerned about you? I leaned back into the plushness of the little chair in front of his desk. I knew the psychology of a short chair in front of the desk and a tall chair behind. Towering over an opponent is a dominant position. I guess they never saw those movies where the downed swordsman thrust upwards into the exposed soft underbelly of the dominant warrior as he winds up for the final lethal stroke. Yes, sir, you do. Manufacturing. I would expect some loyalty from my son-in-law, Slick. Business is business when you're keeping me down, but when it benefits you, suddenly loyalty is important. While we're on the topic of family loyalty, I wonder if you'd be willing to chat about what you did to teach that lesson to your daughter, because you failed. Dale, I apologize. That's another thing. Why are you Mr. Adams while I'm Dale? Business is business. I deserve the same degree of respect that you expect. Very well, Mr. Carter. It is Dr. Carter. Remember, I defended my thesis for my PhD in economics last May. Loaded my bike onto the rig behind my beast cheap. She put the Harley on with my Kawasaki, and we spent the night discussing the merits of nimbleness or raw power in our crotch rockets. Yes, we compared the bikes to between sweaty, sticky, moaning, groaning rocket maneuver events. I skied more than before I skied Tuckerman, and when the summer heat closed that venerable slope on Mount Washington, I found some excellent adrenaline-cranking slopes and glaciers of the Pyrenees. It's funny seeing half-naked women basking in the sun at a high-altitude lodge right beside a snowy slope. It's even more fun watching them remove the rest of their clothing in your hotel room later on. I finished enough tandem jumps out of a perfectly good airplane to qualify to jump alone. So I did the same. Instructor gave me enough hours in a sailplane to solo. So I did. She was so excited having. A student center earned both solos in the same month. She let me duo with her. We jumped naked and drilled on the deserted beach where we landed. We couldn't figure a way to do it in the sailplane since the seating was back to front and the seats were in the way of Hanky and Panky. So we jumped back to the beach again. It was hot the first time, so why not an encore? I posted everything on Facebook and my page was filled with comment activity from our friends and family, especially the kids who weren't speaking to their mom any more than I was. I wasn't at all. She tried to corner. Went back to Hong Kong. We did so well. We leased space and opened the first international office of the firm in Asia. Karen's dear daddy had nothing to object to since we had made enough rain there to need a continued presence. So guess who was named as vice president for operations in the Southern Hemisphere? Yours truly. I installed Ian in Argentina and Kim in Australia, and our division's business took off. I never went home. Karen wanted to follow me, but the kids talked sense into her. I didn't want her. And somehow she accepted that. I sent the Spitfire back to Mom's along with the bike. I gave my son the Jeep and my daughter the Mercedes. I gave Karen a divorce and Karen engagement ring. Yep, I had no intention of spending the best times of my life alone. I wanted a good woman by my side. Besides, she loves to skydive, so I got it all. Adrenaline, a happy home, a new start, my integrity, and a shitload of money, because damn, it's there to be made in my new part of the world. If Karen had just come to me and said, "I'm bored. Let's find something new and exciting in our lives," I would have been thrilled. I was bored, too. We could have skied together. It would have been a rush, teaching her and taking her along. We could have traveled. We could have rafted rivers safely, or ziplined through Cambodia with little risk and plenty of rush. I would have done anything for her until she threw me over for someone else. I couldn't stomach that. I hear she is intensely unhappy with the dating scene. She finds the guys available lacking. She is jealous of the fact her. After 25 years with this firm, I'm still a lowly junior partner. I have brought in more business in the last 5 years than any other manager in my Asian blitz. This last year was unparalleled. My earned bonus was accordingly higher than any other employee, including your divisional presidents. Yet here I am, junior partner. So I'm thinking of taking the standard severance and moving on. Dale, I can't promote you like anyone else. You're my son-in-law. How would that look? I understand business is business, but that cuts both ways. Business is business for me, means taking an offer that reflects my ability. I can be a full partner tomorrow at Woodford Unlimited or Mark. Good. Dr. Carter. It is. I'm aware of my daughter's actions and am not pleased. We have spoken, to put it mildly and well, at the moment she is not speaking to me. My philosophy sucks. I broke in to finish this thought for him. Your philosophy on loyalty is totally out of sync with the rest of the world. Your business is business. Thing is just an easy way of dealing with a workforce that views you as a cold-hearted boss with the personality of a dead fish. Tell me, is it wise to keep your top producer down just because he is your son-in-law? I don't see much reason not to peddle my skills to another firm. Long story short, the arrogant son of a witch told me to go ahead and do my worst. I did. By close of business, everyone on my team, as well as Ian and his team, had tendered resignations. You never saw someone backpedal as fast in your life. Senior partnership for me, with a significant race. But you can't hit a moving target like you can a boring one. Boring me. Kiss my boring bum. After every post my phone rang. I didn't block her number, I just didn't answer. She tried to catch me at work, even using her father to request my presence so we could talk. He didn't try that again after I threatened to defect to Woodford's if he ever tried that again. He had to restrain her in order to allow me a way to leave without her molesting me, some people's children. Then the full court press began. Aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, pets, and grocery boys all seemed to be in favor of giving her another chance. Everyone makes mistakes, you see, so I put them into my shoes. I told the women to. No. Take their clothes off and lie down right where they were, then spread their legs and get ready for me to rock their world. After all, if mistakes like that were so easy to make, so lightly considered and so easily forgiven, I should be able to make a few of my own, and might as well start with someone who understood the process so well. I told the men to bring me their wives, girlfriends, mothers, or of-age daughters for the same reason. They were a bit shocked, but saw my point. I'm sure some would never speak to me again. That's not a bad thing. Still, I was getting sick of the dime store advice, and it was bringing me down, so I left. I took my team back on the road. They were thrilled as they had a ball on our first rampage, buying Asia and Argentina. This time we hit Brazil and Argentina. Then Dad loves the shit out of me for moving away from her. Because we are making his company obscene amounts of money. She regrets what she did. But no, she can't go back. Carrie makes sure of that. Everything. She gets in a helicopter with ski boots on or straps on a parachute. But my ultimate adrenaline rush is going to bed with her every night. There isn't anything Carrie won't do in bed. There isn't anything she hasn't enjoyed that I've done with her. I know because once we have done it, she wants it again. That never happened with Karen. even when we were young and things were good. But we have never spoken since that day. Her dad had to restrain her, so I could leave unassaulted. I'm sure she would like to talk, but she knows how little I want to do with her one day. I suppose one of the kids will get married, or have a grandchild that I will be eager to go meet. Karen will surely be there and I will finally have to interact. But I'm not worried. When that time comes, my Carrie will be there by my side. No, she won't have to protect me. She'll be there to make sure I'm not too boring or bored. Raises for both of our teams in the creation of a mergers and acquisitions division, just for us, with my professional and financial future secured. I turned to my personal life. I rode my bike on wild trails and dirt tracks alike. I even raced motocross. I rode downhill on my mountain bike and got muddy. I looked good muddy and tired and played with a couple of biker chicks that thought it was hot. One was a Harley girl who liked my style on the motocross and thought I was pretty hot on the jumps for an old guy. Then she told me to give her a call when I got something bigger than my dirt bike between my legs. I told her what's between my legs was going to need more than 2 wheels. As I